Okay, my name is Dan Gorman. I teach in the history department at the University of Waterloo, and today I'm going to talk about my second year course, History 268, which is a global history of empires. So the course is, amongst other things, part of the specialization which we have, the joint specialization which the department has with the Department of Political Science. So for those of you who are in that specialization or who are interested in taking it, this course is part of that. The course itself is, as the title suggests, a global history course using empires as the topic of study. So what we do is, along the lines of the Edward Gibbon famous 18th century work on the decline and fall of the Roman Empire, we look at the essentially rise and fall of a select number of global empires over the last several centuries. So in that sense, it's a global history survey course. So we look at the European overseas empires, the British Empire, the overseas empire as well of the Dutch in the Dutch East Indies, as well as the overseas empire of the French, the Portuguese, and the Spanish. So we spend a lot of time looking at the European maritime empires, but we also contrast and compare those European empires with other empires that were built around the world in, again, the 18th, 19th, and 20th century. Specifically, we look at the empires of the Qing dynasty in China, also sometimes known as the Manchus, the empire of the Ottomans in much of the modern-day Middle East and the Mediterranean, and the late 19th and early 20th century empire of modern Japan. So in that sense, the course is also very much a comparative course. So we look at how and why empires developed, again, that sort of rise and fall dynamic over that time period. And then once we get to the 20th century, we talk a lot about how and why empires collapsed. One of the interesting things about the nature of the international system today is that in many ways it is the legacy of the history of empires that our course is about. So I often start the course in the first lecture by looking at Google Earth on the screen, or just putting up sort of a conventional map of the world, which many of us are familiar with from childhood, which is made up of nation states. So the states of the world are colored pink, green, yellow, orange, whatever it may be. And then I talk a little bit about how that map is actually a very recent origin, that about 2/3 of the nation states in the international system today were born in their modern forms after 1945. So what that means is that well into the 20th century, the international system, our world, was a world of empires, not of nation states. So our course is about how and why those empires rose, and then by the 20th century eventually collapsed. And in the last few classes, what we do is talk about the legacies of those empires in our contemporary world.